With the way things played out in Coa's life after his sophomore season, everybody, including the coaches, teammates, the entire University of Kansas, knew he was going to transfer back to Hawaii. And he did the complete opposite. He returned back to Kansas for his junior season, and he's looking to have his best year yet before entering the NFL draft. Now, one thing about it, we all know Cole is going to step up and play at a high level every time he steps on the field, but we're looking for this team to have more success than they did last season. There's a few new faces on both sides of the ball, a handful of guys returning from last season. KP's leadership is going to be needed more than ever, but I know he's going to be the high-end vocal leader that he's always been. If KP can replicate anything from his freshman or sophomore season, there's no doubt in my mind he will be a locked-in first-round pick, and maybe even a #1 overall pick as a linebacker. But even with high hopes for the season, the Jayhawks get off to an ugly start, taking a loss in OT in a battle against Memphis. Going into this season, Cole and his mom were on two completely different planes when it came to his decision, and obviously things didn't go the way she wanted. See, when KP made the decision to stay in Kansas, she felt like he was abandoning her, and that couldn't be further from the truth. He's doing everything he can to be in the best position possible to take care of her. What she doesn't understand is he's in a place where he could actually have some success, not only for himself but his team, and he's kind of built something special in Kansas. Going to Hawaii, he would literally be starting from scratch. But after explaining this to her time and time again, KP just can't get through to her. And it's like she's developed somewhat of a slight hatred for him, and he's noticed. And a clear example of that slight hatred that she's developed, KP tried to fly back home for spring break. And after calling to make sure it was a good time, she told him not to bother, and that shattered KP's heart. Cole's current girlfriend, Gardenia, she's been playing somewhat of the middle ground, keeping in contact with Cole and his mom, kind of getting her point of view and giving Cole some insight because she won't talk to him at all. I mean, could you imagine scratch that, the most important person in your life has resentment or hate towards you and they just don't even want to engage or even talk to you? Cole is playing with an extremely heavy heart and a boatload of pressure. Between trying to get to the league and be a top-end draft pick, carrying his teammates and fixing the situation with his mom, he got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And Gardenia, she's the real MVP. She's doing everything she can to make sure Cole's in a good headspace and making sure he's good physically, if you know what I mean. Friend, companion, a life partner. She's been everything for Cole within this last year, and I can't imagine if he didn't have her on his side. But overall, Cole's been respecting his mom's boundaries because he knows if he oversteps, she could slip back into a terrible mental state like she did last year, and that's the last thing anybody wants. But most days are better than others. Some can be pretty bad, but I'm extremely proud of KP for being so strong and still playing at an elite level. But on a lighter note, 2 back-to-back dubs after that week 1 L against Memphis, and they're looking to get their 3rd straight win against a pretty decent TCU team. But it won't be a walk in the park. This offense is firing on all cylinders. They're not getting enough pressure on this quarterback, and their secondary, I don't think they can hang. And the greatest part of this Kansas team is the defense, and if they can't compete with this TCU team, you know the offense is going to struggle, and they've done just that throughout these first 3 quarters. And they continue to do everything they can to keep the ball away from Cole, running the ball to the opposite side of the field, and somehow he still finds a way to make plays. Down here in the red zone on 2nd and 8, a big play is much needed for this Kansas defense, and Cole just misses out on a potential pick 6. And when it's all said and done here in the 4th quarter, this TCU team is just far more superior. They did an amazing job completely erasing Cole from this game from making any big impactful plays. After a game against a tough TCU team, you'd think the next one would be a little bit easier. Wrong. They got number 21 ranked Oklahoma. This Oklahoma offensive line has built a wall in front of this quarterback, but KP won't be stopped. He sheds this block getting the back for a negative 8-yard sack, a big time play. With Cole's elite size, speed, and agility, who would be his NFL comparison today or even all time? And aside from him being a freakish athlete, his IQ is off the charts, somewhat like a Luke Kuechly. And then his overall toughness, being able to see the ball, get to the spot, lay big hits on command. And his big hit ability is on full display. He gets just his 2nd forced fumble in this game. He's absolutely terrorizing his offense. And to my surprise and just about everyone else's, Kansas is hanging in tight with the number 21 ranked team in the country. This is a big statement game. And after a dominant performance like that at home, I wouldn't be surprised if Cole's name slipped into the Heisman conversation early this season. And their strength of schedule continues to get harder. 4-1 Oklahoma State, who's looking to get ranked, but the Jayhawks can have something to say about that. I don't know how this left tackle didn't get called for holding on this play, but Cole uses his strength to shed the block and he gets a huge sack. And that same tackle did everything he could to slow Cole up. He fully extended to try to get the block, but that elite speed that Cole possesses, it just can't be tamed. This O-line has no answer for Cole. He continues to get into the backfield and cause disruptions for this offense. He's going crazy. These last couple of games, Cole's been more of a disruption and a problem for these offenses more than ever. That game against TCU really woke up his inner beast. The Jayhawks pull off another surprising win against yet another top-tier team in the country, advancing to 4-2. Word around town is that Texas football is back, but we're going to see today as they match up against the Jayhawks at home. Now, even though Texas is a Big 12 team, they love to run the ball, and even though this running back isn't Bijan, he ain't no joke. But when they do decide to drop back and pass the ball, KP is going to make sure he does everything he can to put a hurt on Quinn Ewers. And put a hurt on him is an understatement. KP nearly knocked his head off. Quinn thought he had an easy dump off in the flats. He turned his head and got smashed. But despite a pretty good stand by this Jayhawk defense, their offense has been non-existent the entire game. And they're going to take a 10-0 road loss to a pretty mediocre Texas team. They just can't find the stride of consistency. And that's it. That one word, consistency, has been the focal point for this Jayhawks team for the last 3 seasons. These last 2 years, in my opinion, this Jayhawks team had the potential to be historically great, but they can't put together a complete season. And the same song for this team has been on repeat. Win a couple games here, drop one there, just super inconsistent. It's almost like an endless cycle. They'll play against top tier teams in the country, play well, win those games. When it comes to playing teams that they should beat, they don't step up and perform. It's almost like they get excited or somewhat satisfied because they're winning games, more games in a season than they've won really in the last decade. In the player-only meetings that KP puts together throughout the season, he harps on this time and time again, but it seems like the team just isn't hearing him. And that gets me thinking, going back to Cole's decision to stay at Kansas instead of transferring, if he can't get it done here with the team he's developed, imagine how hard it would have been at Hawaii. But back before Cole even made his decision, he even considered going to one of the top teams in the nation, like a Alabama or even a Georgia. I mean, could you imagine KP being an addition to one of these already stacked dominant teams in the country? They would have just been OP with his talents added to that roster. But the only thing that kept KP from even considering transferring to another team other than Hawaii or staying at Kansas was his mom, of course. Instead of her recognizing her son as the #1 defensive player in all of college football, and if he went to one of those teams, it can increase his draft stock like crazy, she would just see it as betrayal. And it's just sad, somewhat pathetic, that this man cannot reach his full potential somewhere else because of someone else's feelings. They're within the last 3 games of the season with a very mediocre 5-4 record, and KP can't believe how the season is going. If they win out, they won't finish much better, if not any better than what they did last season, and KP can't believe that. To no one's surprise, Cole was balling at an elite level, having a similar statistical season to his junior year, which is locking him in to be a first-round draft pick. I mean, the only thing that can make the situation better is if they had a team in Hawaii so Cole can go straight home and be with his mom to satisfy her. But on a serious and realistic note, what pick in the draft would Cole be in the first round exactly? And what team would actually pick him up? Honestly, I don't see him going no later than the 3rd or 4th pick. Maybe behind a few quarterbacks, but you never know. The league will shock you sometime. They got 8-2 West Virginia this week. Now, usually, especially at home, they step up against talent like this, but I wouldn't chalk this one up as a dub just yet. The way Cole set this running back up to play the outside, plant that foot, get back inside, and explode through that hole to get to the quarterback, amazing. This West Virginia team is not known for running the ball, and they're trying to catch the Hawks by surprise by putting it on the ground a lot more than usual. But what they fail to realize is there's no success to be had on the ground against one of the top teams in the nation when it comes to rush defense. And the way Cole continues to duck and dodge potential blockers is amazing. He extends fully, gets the sack, bro. He is a magician. And to cap off an impressive win, my boy almost gets a pick six, a easy, just not even a walk-in pick six, a step-in, a tiptoe pick six, but he comes away with a good tackle. Final game of the season, or final game for Cole at least for obvious reasons, but they're at home against 3-8 Texas Tech. If they win this one, they could finish out 8-4, which isn't terrible, but Cole had national championship hopes on his mind definitely. But to think that it's been 3 full seasons, Cole's been healthy, he's been extremely dominant, it's been a pleasure to cover his career so far. With Cole leaving after this season and going to the NFL draft, and Gardenia graduating a year early, securing her degree, they'll be starting their careers at the same time. And I have to say it's going to be beautiful to see how much better KP and his mom's relationship get after he's going to be able to move her anywhere in the country, wherever he's at. And I've been thinking, how is this Jayhawks defense going to fare next season? No KP, this team might drop back right where they were before he even came. And on the final play of KP's collegiate career, his teammate secures a pick, a clutch one at that, to take them home for an 8-4 season. Taking a look at his rewards and his total stats for his college career, they're otherworldly. Cole Polo Jr. is a college football legend. Cole, Gardenia, and his mom have flew out to New York for the NFL draft. Now, Cole and Gardenia are in the green room, but his mom nowhere to be found, and she's not picking up her phone after missing a million calls.